have footholds and high growth trends of the new economy, namely green jobs, green wind technology. These are the things that are projected to grow. These are the things that we're already strong in. We have a strong manufacturing base that can easily transition to this. We need to incentivize that more. We need to put more energy into that so that we can grow jobs and grow energy the appropriate ways, not in ways of the past like coal and nuclear energy.
Thank you. Ms. Baker?
I would say that I am open-minded to anything that is proposed to me to examine, and we would have to put it through debate, make sure that it is appropriate for Ohio. I do want to say, though, there was a bit of mistaken information. The environment, health, and safety during oil and gas operations, that industry must comply with the following federal statutes and their supporting regulations: the Clean Air, the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Comprehensive Environmental Response, Compensation Liability Act, the Clean Air Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act, the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Those are on a federal level. That is just one level before it even comes to us, and we have made it even stronger. We have the strongest regulations in the country when it comes to oil and gas development. There is no question. Other states are looking to us as to what it is that we're doing. We have given that accountability to our residents, to our taxpayers, and to those that are benefiting not only through the gas and oil development, but all the economic development pieces that come with that. The pipe makers, the welders. It is unbelievable what this can mean for Ohio. It is a game changer. We need to make sure we do it safely, but we also need to make sure that we move forward because this will bring jobs. It's not the only. We are diversified here in Ohio. We certainly have medical. We have all kinds of different industries. IT is big, and our community colleges are geared up and on board to make sure that we cooperate and collaborate with this industry and other industries to get a qualified workforce.
Thank you. And Ms. Baker, we've got another question on the issue of voter ID and voter fraud. Ohio has been an extremely important state in the presidential election. For extreme measures to be taken regarding voter ID, can anyone tell us how many actual cases of voter fraud have been uncovered in the past election?
Well, like I said earlier, this is a big election here for Ohio. This is one that everyone is watching. And if there's a way to manipulate the vote, I think we would be naive to think. And is that a criminal act? Of course it is. But, there's a lot of money and there's a lot at stake. There's a lot of power. You can imagine what power does to corrupt. And this, in fact, is. And we need to make sure that what we do is gives the confidence to the voters that who they vote for is who they vote for, and only once. And that those candidates that are out there have the same understanding that who votes for them, they can be confident was voted and counted correctly.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
Well, yeah, and it is a presidential election year, and there are certainly a lot of forces at work in determining the outcome of the election. But I think it's certainly much less likely that there's a vast, criminal conspiracy to commit voter fraud, and much more likely that we're seeing new restrictive voter identification laws directed at Democratic constituencies so that we can tilt the outcome of the election to the conservative candidate. That's illegal. It's not a very good way of doing it. But I think that's where the powered forces are at work, certainly. But Gene Platten, I know, has discussed in the past that there's virtually no recorded voter fraud in Cuyahoga County in a very, very long time. This is a solution in search of a problem. I think the problem is really that we're looking at trimming off likely Democratic voters to help the Republican presidential or other candidate nominee.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer, could you please tell us about your present or recent memberships and activities and participation in local West Shore non-political, civic, charitable, cultural, or fraternal organizations that promote the common good.
Sure. Sure. I was a founding member of the West Shore Bar Association. I was their first treasurer. I stayed with that for a few years, and certainly I've been involved in the local Sierra Club and active in that organization as well.
Thank you. Ms. Baker?
Well, thank you. And I think many people, even here in Rocky River, although my home is Westlake, have been very involved over the years. 4 years I served on school board, which was, I said everybody in their lifetime should serve on school board. Gives you a very good understanding of school finance and that whole picture. Also served 9 years on city council in Westlake, and that's a great city with good government, and it was a pleasure to serve with my colleagues over there. A lot of community service. Certainly have been very involved in the West Shore Chamber of Commerce. I was past president for 2 years and still serve on the Board of Trustees. A wonderful organization that is there for small business. I serve on the advisory board at St. John Medical Center. That's been a very worthwhile board to be a part of, trying to get input from those constituents that live in their city. I am the treasurer of the Westlake Lions Club, and I'm an active member of the Westlake Kiwanis Club. Both wonderful organizations that do a lot for people that you don't always hear about. They're behind the scenes. They're just there. It's amazing the scholarships and the contributions that they make, not only for their community but for their kids. Also part of the West Side Professional Women's Connection. I just spoke at their luncheon yesterday, and that was a pleasure. And I am a member of the Westlake West Shore Arts Council, which is also a wonderful organization in Westlake, but really is West Shore. It encompasses many of the local artists, and the statue or monument that you see right across from City Hall in Westlake was one that we worked on. And it is not a traditional statue. It is one that is abstract. And I remember one of our councilmen, when we were trying to get approval for that, said, well, what is it? I don't know what to call it. And the person said back, that's the point, is that you're not supposed to know what it is. You know by looking and determining what you think it is. But thank you for the question.
Thank you. And Ms. Baker, how do you feel about improving mass transit versus building more highways?
Well, one thing about Ohioans, they do like their cars. They like the freedom of being able to drive. Gas is high, and usually when we have high gas, we start to consider about mass transit. I haven't given much thought to building more highways. I'm not sure that that's really on the table right now. It's maintaining the highways that we have, maintaining our bridges, making sure they're safe is more the priority than really talking about building more roads.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
Well, yeah, I think certainly this is one of the examples of kind of the ideology, the extremism that's been present in Columbus recently when Kasich declined federal funding for related projects. This is in our best interest. This is stuff that would have brought money into the state, would have put boots on the ground, people to work, and Kasich made an ideological choice that he didn't like mass transit. Well, a lot of people do like mass transit, and frankly, as gas prices get more outrageous, certainly it's going to be something that's more and more appealing to people. We need to invest in this, and we certainly need to accept the federal dollars there when it's there to help our state deal with its transportation problems.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer, what made you interested in becoming a state representative, and what suggestions will you have to make state government more efficient?
Well, I've had a lot of pride in the things that I've done in my private life and been pushing for reform or innovation in my professional career and political life. And certainly I've felt stymied at times by seeing bad decisions at work. And it certainly made me think about running for office myself. And certainly, I think the general sense of this hyper-partisanship and this we won't work with the other side, we won't work together, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. And I'd like to see things better. I know that I am a person who can make a significant positive contribution to the state government. If I'm elected, I'm going to work across the aisles. I'm going to work on things to put the focus back on job growth and the economy and develop a strategy for how to do that. Look at local governments, look at local regions, and see what they do well, how that intersects with the new economy. We need to take an innovative and innovative approach there, and we can't just have this gridlock, this hyper-partisanship that's stopping us from working across the aisle that's happening in Columbus right now. I'm going to challenge my party when it needs to be challenged, and I'm going to work with the opposing side on the issues that we can, and there's plenty of issues that we can. But we need a leader who is going to call their party out and say, hey, we need to work together with the other side. We need to stop this hyper-partisanship. We need to get to work for the common good. And that's just not how you don't see people who are willing to challenge their own party, unfortunately. That's something that needs to happen, and that's the number one thing that I can bring.
Thank you. Ms. Baker?
Well, I'm not sure where all this hyper-partisanship is coming from. I chair the Economic and Small Business Development Committee, and we have been very much across both aisles. I mean, one thing great about talking about creating a better environment in Ohio for jobs is that everyone agrees. We all agree. It's how we get there, perhaps we have differences. But I have worked with the other side of the aisle on just about every bill that went through my committee. There was, and if we needed amendments, if we needed to talk about what it is we needed to change, we did. I'm not quite sure, I know there's headlines and I know it's, but it's disappointing to hear that there's so much of that when we know at the Ohio House all the accomplishments that we have made. Part of some of the House bills that ran through my committee, such as House Bill 94, which is a small business regulatory reform. Both sides of the aisle agreed to that. We established a common sense initiative office. We call it CSI office. Now, a common sense initiative office in government sometimes is an oxymoron. But in this case, we put together an office where any business owner can call if they feel that there's an unfair tax or mandate that they would like to challenge. And if we find that they're right, that it's an archaic law that needs to be changed, we change it. We have examples of that, and that's just the way it is there. We also have Tourism Ohio, which we need to market this state better. And that is another bill that we did across both aisles to make sure that we work together towards the betterment for everyone in the state. And there are a number of bills like that. I've got a list of them. I have 20 of them on my website if you'd like to take a look. There is a spirit of knowing that what we need to do is to create a better business environment. We do that, Ohioans will be healthier, stronger, and we'll all be better for it.
Thank you. Ms. Baker and Mr. Meyer, how does your experience show that you will reach across the aisle to form relationships with other legislators to help our district? And can you give us an example?
Well, I think I gave, but I'll continue. I mean, I've got lots of job bills and regulatory reform bills. We also, outside of the regulatory reform in Tourism Ohio, we also passed House Bill 327, giving opportunities for home-based workers, those that perhaps don't have the mobility, those that perhaps want to stay home and take care of their family. We are being innovative and creative in trying to find ways to increase our jobs here in Ohio, and that was another example. Also, the Ohio Business Gateway, it needs improvement. We've been working on that with the Department of Administration, trying to make that small business resource portal better for businesses who use it. Also, workforce development is another nonpartisan initiative. We're trying to make sure that we're bringing these good, high-paying jobs here to Ohio we don't have a qualified workforce is what we're finding from our businesses. We need to make sure that our kids who graduate from high school, if they have to get something, some training to make sure that they're qualified for these jobs. Also, our community colleges are on board. Cuyahoga Community College, Lorraine Community College, talked to them extensively. They've been at the Ohio House. We've been to their colleges. They're ready to take whatever it is they need to do to help these businesses make sure that our students or even our displaced workers have the training they need. And I know I'm running out of time, but I want to at least mention House Bill 18, which is a vacant property job creation bill. That is a great bill that went through the House, the Senate, and the governor got signed. The bill got signed in May, and that is saying that a business who wants to expand and is out of space, we're asking them to consider a vacant building, and that was widely supported across the board, both sides of the aisle.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
And I think probably the most appropriate phrase from that, though, is common sense, because of course, in any legislative setting, there's always going to be issues. They're kind of the stock issues that you reach across the aisle for to do the common sense, feel good things. And of course, every state legislator, probably in the entire state, has similar records on those common sense issues. The problem right now is and to ignore the hyper-partisan extremist reality that we're facing right now in Ohio and the nation is a little naive, because for every common sense piece of legislation, there's the much more well-noted and well-documented Senate Bill 5, restrictions on voting rights. There's so many hyper-partisan extreme bills that are creating this environment of polarization right now and are hampering our ability to do common sense legislation, or to do legislation that's not just common sense, but is a little bit more ambitious than that, and really wants to get to the heart of what we need to do to put our economy firmly on the path for growth. As far as examples in my experience, I've been a prosecutor for about 3 years and a private sector attorney for the past 3. And certainly the things that I've been proudest of have been reaching across the aisle. What I prosecuted was mostly building and housing code issues. So it was an area of the law that was tightly linked to the foreclosure crisis. It was an area of law that not many people know too much about it. And what I would do is, instead of prosecuting a person, a large-scale landowner for a particular house, I would work with them so that we would have a large-scale agreement on a number of houses, so that we could really get to the...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The last question, one of the answers did mention the vacant stores and offices, and we do have a question about that what, if anything, you in the Ohio House can do about the large number of vacant stores and offices. Ms. Baker.
Thank you, and as I gave a quick reference to, but I can elaborate a little bit more on it, House Bill 18 is the vacant property job creation bill, and that is saying to a business owner that when they are in a position where they have made the choice that they're leaving where it is they're at, this is not before that decision, this is at the point where they're saying, I'm out of space, I need a larger place to move into, I'm going to add people to my payroll. At that point in their decision-making process, we are saying, please choose a vacant building. And if you do that, we will give you an incentive that will help you fix that vacant building up. And we have gone through the reports and Legislative Service Commission, which is a nonpartisan agency that helps us write these bills, but also is a research group. They have determined that the average Ohioan makes $40,000 a year. They contribute $1,500 to the state, and through that, we determined that $500 would be a reasonable amount of money for every newly created job. Also, that 50% mark, if it's a hardware store and they have 10 employees, they need to hire 5 more employees, which would be 50% of their workforce, to go into a larger building, which would be 12 months vacant, and they would be awarded the $500 to help fix that building up. If it's a larger company, then the minimum would be 50 employees would have to be moving into that business. But it was, as I said, it's a 3-year sunset, because most of these bills should be sunsetted. We need to take a look to see whether or not, first of all, is it working, and whether or not we need to continue it. We may be in an economy that is better in 3 years. So we certainly want to watch that closely. But as I said, this was well received in the Ways and Means Committee, unanimous decision. Over in the Senate, was unanimously held. And then finally it was signed by the governor in May. And lots of inquiries. We're working with the Department of Development, making sure we get all the guardrails in place so that there aren't anyone that would take advantage of it. But it's a good bill, and I look forward to seeing it implemented.
Thank you. Mr. Meyer?
Again, I think it's common sense legislation. There's a sunset provision in there for 3 years. We'll see. I'm not sure if it will be impactful in helping that. It might be. We'll see. It's another piece of common sense legislation that's common throughout the state legislature. I think we need to put our sights at a little bit more ambitious work, but we'll see in 3 years what impact it's had.
Thank you. And the last question, because I'm informed that the hook is going to be coming out very soon for me. Mr. Meyer, what is your stand on the Ohio State Legislature making laws concerning abortion and your position on the proposed heartbeat bill?
Well, again, we get back to the constitutionality of things. The state, just as it's obligated to follow the federal government's mandate for health care, it's obligated to follow Roe v. Wade, and the heartbeat bill is unconstitutional. Even pro-life organizations will have basically noted as much, and that it's basically just an exercise, again, in hyper-partisanship. It's an incendiary issue that we're putting forward when we need to be looking at real, meaningful, lasting contributions on economic growth and job growth. So that is a flawed and non-starter bill. In general, the anti-abortion bills, they're not helpful or not impactful on what we should be trying to do in terms of growing the economy, growing jobs. I don't agree with them as policy, and it's a bad time to be doing it.
Thank you. And Ms. Baker?
Gosh, I've heard a few times now that government is making common sense initiatives and laws and regulations, and I think that's a good thing. I would love to see more common sense. As a small business owner myself, I am in the Ohio House because I wanted to bring that common sense to those lawmakers that sometimes a well-intended idea drilled down to a small business owner can be pretty devastating. So if I initiate common sense laws, then I'll take it. If I'm accused of being aggressive, because I think that the most important thing we can do right now is be aggressive in creating a better environment for jobs, I'll take it. As far as the heartbeat bill goes, it is not what I'm there for. I mean, my focus as chair of the Economic and Small Business Development Committee is 90% spent on trying to create legislation that makes that happen. But the heartbeat bill is as simple as this. If a heartbeat is detected, there's life. And that is the choice that we were given. And I don't know how anyone can deny that if a heartbeat is detected, there is life. And that is, it's as simple as that. Thank you.
Thank you. We've come to the part now where each candidate has an opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement. We'll start with you, Ms. Baker.
Okay. Well, I think we've heard a lot tonight, and certainly I think you have a better idea of the two candidates that are up here. I do appreciate the opportunity to serve at the Ohio House. I've worked hard. I think our constituents know that. We have engaged in just about every level of interaction with our schools, with our superintendents, with our mayors, with our community groups, with our business groups, and certainly the input that I've gotten from them has been good, and I take that back with me. We have what's called library days, where I am at all of the libraries, all 5 of them. I spent the Saturday there in the morning. Anyone who wants to drop in can drop in and say hello and tell me what's on their mind. Responsiveness and being open to anyone who wants to talk has always been there. We have a very hardworking office. And when I go back, I will continue, hopefully go back, but I will continue to focus on creating a better business environment. As I said earlier, the more we can get back to work, the healthier we are. It's really all about jobs. It's all about people taking care of their family, getting off the social services, and making this a strong, strong economy. And that is only done through job creation. So thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight and to speak to all of you tonight. Afterwards, if you have any questions, I certainly would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. And Mr. Meyer, please.
Thanks. Our district has a track record, our district and our state have a track record of moderation and a lack of extremism. The environment in Columbus has just been toxic. It's been anything but moderate and non-extreme. We need a legislator and a leader who will challenge the status quo, not support it. We need a legislator and a leader who will not be afraid to challenge his own party when it's in the wrong, when it's gone too far. I've taken a lot of pride in the achievements I've had both professionally in working out collaborative, innovative agreements and politically in pushing for reform in the Democratic Party despite resistance. We need a change in politics. We need new leadership that's not afraid to say that politics is broken. I ask for your vote on November 6th to allow me to prove that I can help provide that change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for attending. I had a couple of announcements. This debate has been filmed by Westlife newspaper, and it will be available on their website, and that is westlifenews.com. You remember in the beginning when I discussed that we probably might be consolidating questions, we may not be able to get to all the questions. We wanted to just let you know we eliminated a few because they had to do with federal government decisions or local government decisions. There were many forms of questions about improving our economy, and so we had to consolidate those. But interestingly enough, there was a lot of interest about redistricting. And that leads into the fact that we wanted to announce there will be a public meeting on Monday, October 8th, 7 p.m. at the Renaissance in Olmsted Falls. This is a League of Women Voters educational presentation on issue 2. If you want more information, I believe that is on our website, which I seem to remember as lwv-cuyahogaarea.org. So again, thank you all for coming tonight, and for the candidates for sharing their time, and for all of you for your interest and participation. Thank you.